from his computer, it's not like connected, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, poor he was I feel terrible. Oh well. He's not in the meeting. Oh well, maybe he'll come back, or had to restart or reboot. I don't know his. Okay, I'm not gonna email him right now. It's time for class. Okay, so I'm gonna start with. I wonder if my uncle's gonna be on here. I invited my uncle. We are gonna have a very small class. How many people? It says how many people are on here? You know, can you guys see in the
13.
grid?
13 participants.
15?
13.
Oh, 13. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. I tried to send out like a lot of emails in preparation. So, you know, I feel like the classes are going to get, like, we have a really good class with good students, but I think it's going to dwindle how engaged and how well people are doing, just because, you know, this is so crazy. But a lot of you have taken online classes before, no? That always intimidated me because just lack of engagement, but I figured we could do it, you know, we don't have a choice. So I just want to say, with a small group, for the next going on out, and it sucks because the people that didn't come here, I've changed the PowerPoint completely around, but that we'll be doing, I'll just be giving extra credit for participation. I mean, Olga's pretty good at it, but you're all capable of it. Like I've read what you write, and you all have interesting views. So let's all. I will give extra points on the test for just, you know, any of your comments or questions. And another thing is, you know, I need your help. Like we said, like, I need your help to figure this out, you know, for the benefit of all of us. I mean, we're in this moment of uncertainty. I mean, how are you guys all feeling? How you've had one day of classes? How has it been?
To be honest, I feel kind of overwhelmed with all because like I feel like all the professors are like kind of also trying to like transition from like their past papers or like other things to online, and like everyone's trying to also get used to it. So I think
So you're feeling their anxiety.
Yeah, because it's like also like hard for us to transition to.
Wow, that's good. That's good to know. Like that's like, it's uncertainty, both what you have to juggle, probably like being quarantined or whatever we are, self-isolating, and then you have like professors freaking out, you know, which they are, and then having to navigate that and wondering if they're gonna probably even you know, maybe lessen the course load because, you know, the circumstances make it impossible to do some things, you know, like group projects. We're not going to have the group projects, which is too bad, because I had this special arrangement with this museum for us to like go and give presentations with the artwork there and do research on their grounds, and in their libraries and stuff. So I was sad for us not to have the opportunity, but we'll figure something out. And as for your guys, like these Mackenzie's or someone's request, I made PDFs for today, and I'm going to make PDFs. And I figured, let's just go and see how far we get tonight. I mean, I don't plan going really past 8. And then I will try to make like a video for the rest. I mean, we can sit long times if you want, and you know, and go to like 8:45, 9, or I can try my best at making videos for us so we can do half and half. But the one thing I didn't want to do, which is one thing that my two colleagues were doing, was just posting notes. And it just seems so lazy and like not a good way to learn. So anyway, we'll do our best. So think of engagement. Here's the next slide. Here's what's coming up. We are not doing the group projects. On our deadline, we have to get this test done. It was supposed to be done last time. We got to get the tests done maybe Thursday and Friday. And then observational analysis, I was thinking extend it to the following Tuesday, or because Sunday is going to be really nice out for those of you that can go to one of these sculpture gardens. And if not, just talk to me. I kind of make some other arrangements. And we will have the final assignments are basically this final project, maybe a manifesto assignment, like where you have to pick an art movement and pick an art piece from it and why it relates to their philosophy. And vocabulary and Sontag readings. And, if we end up doing like some kind of debate on a controversy, then readings for that. But that we might not do that because I don't know how we do that online. And then, so barring that, just discussions. I could just put a lot of the homework into the discussions. Okay. She raised her hand. Oh, I've got it. Okay, so where do I? Okay, Olga.
So the discussions that are already up there, are they for like extra credit, or do you want
No,
us
they're
to?
homework.
Okay, you want us to do them like soon?
You did them.
I did one. I
You
just
did a
saw
great
the
job.
other.
People haven't done them, but they're homework. I consider them homework. I mean, they're like thinking, and believe me, the questions that are on the discussions are going to show up on the test. Like, it's my way of helping you with your studying. Like, you're going to see them again. And then there'll be a probably a short final. So I think our final projects will build off our observational analysis. And I'll probably have us like talking to me, like having like Zoom or FaceTime or whatever meetings with me to like talk about it so I can help. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Okay. So just out of curiosity, how many of you guys, just raise your hand, you don't have to, have used film or developed film before? Two people? Wow. How many of you guys have pictures, like develop or print out your pictures that you take these days? Wow. So Laura, you must be a photographer. 3. Yeah. So, because we don't relate to images the same way. Oh my God. Okay. They removed the 40-minute time limit, right? So, early film were very labor intensive, photographs to process. But before that, they didn't process them at all. They did, as we learned about, these camera obscuras. Remember how they were using them in paintings in Europe in the 18th century, in the 16th century, in the 17th century, that it came from China. But it was the idea of projecting something through a small magnifying glass in the wall. But then the earliest photograph that we know that was printable was called a cyanotype. It's a photographic blueprint, and a cyanotype photogram. This is made by Anna Atkins, early woman photographer. She was a botanist, and this was her book in 1843 about British algae. But notice how it kind of looks like a blueprint that they would use for architecture, or they all used to use. Now maybe it's all CAD. This is a contact print. So the paper would be kind of this treated material, and then she would put like dried algae directly onto the paper, and it would sit it in the sun. And as it sat in the sun, the paper around the algae would turn blue, and the algae would be white, so it's a negative. It becomes a negative. They hadn't figured out how to flip that and turn it into a positive, but the benefits, it was cameraless, but the difficulties, they just only make one at a time. They're like sun prints. You can buy them at museums now. You can like make your own. They're really fun to do with like kids. So the calotype was the first, and you know, it was it kind of oxidized on light sensitive paper, and it was used again and again, you know, until they developed the calotype. And it is Henry. So there's a lot going on in England and France in photography, early photography. And he invented the first process for creating light fast and permanent photographs. So this was a big deal. The negatives, you know, is that, look at, they're totally not clear. Notice that they're very how do I do this? Notice how like fuzzy they are. So that's the negative, but look what he did. He made the negative, and then he was able to reverse it and turn it into a positive. So that's how you get your first kind of positive looking photograph, the reversal. And it was done with tons of chemicals, and you know, these were super dangerous. So that was a positive about it. It was that it was no longer a one-off too. You could make multiples, and you could use a camera. So he exposed paper by letting light hit it and produce this image, right? This negative, and then he placed the negative against another coated paper to make a positive. And that's how you kind of make a contact sheet. And so this is an image of his book, the negative and the positive, the negative and the positive of his estate in England. He was like you know, they were all these kind of wealthy people that were just tinkering around. And the developing process permitted like shorter exposure times, etc. But this is the kind of thing that won out. This is what they call a genre scene, kind of a scene of daily life. And it was actually, people thought of it as like a genre painting, like the Dutch school of art, like this is a scene of daily life. And, you know, photographic genres basically, you know, copied painting genres. They hadn't figured out their own path. And he did all these scenes of his wealthy estate in his book, but this is a scene that really kind of showed off. But look, it's still kind of like, it's not that clear, not that delineated. But in terms of photography, you know, they were still doing like landscapes. Oops, sorry. Got to turn that up. Landscapes, still life, etc. They're trying, because the arguments against them was that they weren't a work of art, but they're saying, oh no, we are, and they just kind of basically try to be like painting. And then you get daguerreotypes, which is the first really commercially successful form of photograph. Very, very accurate. So one thing that calotypes weren't was accurate, but at least they made more than one. And these had very long exposures, and you could only make one off. So they were made with plates, and they had mirrors in them, but they were extremely, like, look at, you can see all the detail of this, the like basketry. So very, very accurate. And again, what kind of painting would this be, or what genre is this? Are they trying to mimic? Somebody?
Still life.
Yeah, still life, exactly, like a painting. And compare these two, you know, can you see difference in like apertures, or in apertures, in details?
And color, for one.
Yeah, the color is different. One is very good point. It's like kind of brownish, right?
Yeah. I'm
And the
curious.
other, huh?
I'm curious to know, did they use it at the stage? Did they like photograph people or not yet? Not really.
Well, we'll get to that, because the daguerreotypes did. And then again, what's this?
Still life.
Yeah, what kind of still life? What's it called?
Memento mori
Well, memento mori is an
the
object.
symbol, right?
What's the object that's a memento mori?
Skull.
Yeah, all of them basically. Skull, the time, right? Because a memento mori is a reminder of death. Okay.
Oh, it's a vanitas.
Yeah,
Right?
good. A still life filled with memento mori is about the vanities of life, right? I'm just going to help you, because this is in our test for our class. This is part of the Catholic Protestant Reformation. They're rebelling against the Catholics, and they say all religious art is banned, but then they start making vanitas to give moral stories, you know, when they couldn't be overtly religious, to kind of be subtly.
It also looks more clear.
Well, this is, yes, this is much more clear. These daguerreotypes are astounding. And so here's, like, they have a reproducible photographic style. They were made with glass or tin, and often they were small, right? Now look at this. Is who is this, guys? Do you know? Really? He had a house in Anacostia, right across the river. Okay. This is a crusader for civil rights, Frederick Douglass. And if you look at him, like, look, does he look super friendly? Anyone give me his attitude?
Looks serious.
He is serious. And it's also because they had super long exposures. He had a brace on his neck to hold them in place, because, you know, you don't see anyone smiling in daguerreotypes, because see this, they had a neck brace holding them in. So he's just kind of being as still as possible. And here's all the stages of daguerreotype: is polishing the mirror, the tin, the developing room. This is an actual, like, reproduction of a studio in Boston. But it really, they were, you know, they were mementos of people, especially going off to war. You see, they were so small, though, and so detailed, you would look at them with a magnifying glass. And then what are we looking at? Anybody? Oh, somebody's come back on.
Someone's baby picture?
A baby picture, yeah. Well, do you ever think, do babies sit still that long? Remember, these exposures are like 15 minutes.
Is this a dead baby?
It's a
No,
dead
I think he's
baby.
oh my god, I thought he was asleep.
Yeah, well, you think, but mortality was very, very high. You guys, oh, I'm sorry, I muted everyone. Just mute yourself if you want to be muted, and then get back to me. So mortality was really high of children, child mortality, you know, typhoid and all these things that they had, that diseases. They didn't have public health like we did. She was it became a new way of mourning, not only for soldiers in the Civil War. The Union soldiers go off, you would carry, you know, an image very similar to to the Frederick Douglass image. You'd carry it with you, you'd hold it, you'd look at it with magnifying glass. But then, you know, with suddenly we had a new way of mourning with photography, right? The photographs, we mourn differently. You know, it becomes a genre. And when I worked at Sotheby's, you'd see tons of these post-mortem photographs being sold. So it must have been a really, you know, a way for coping that people would spend their money, because it wouldn't have been cheap. Here's a modern daguerreotype. You know, they used to be small. This is actually pretty big. It's by Chuck Close, the guy that he makes portraits with small patterns. And this is a fashion model, Kate Moss. But look at, it's a long exposure. You don't see this when you see her skin. It looks really smooth, but this, you see all her sunspots because the camera penetrates. But you can also see a little bit how she's moved, right? In the lower half, she's moved her lower part of her image, so it's a little fuzzier. But in general, daguerreotypes are incredibly detailed. And here's a Frenchman, Gustave Legray. He is very famous for his atmospheric pictures. You know, and he really kind of expanded the possibility, because you couldn't take, because there wasn't different speeds of film. You couldn't depict the sky and the sea simultaneously in a single image. You know, the sky would appear washed out while the water looked too dark. And he resolved this by combining two negatives, one for the sea and one for sky, at different exposure times. You know, so he kind of manipulated the technique rather than being, you know, but it wasn't considered duplicitous. It wasn't like considered, oh, you've just photoshopped this. It was seen as an expansion of the medium. And so he did, it was sort of at the time, his cloud studies were the event of the year. And I love some of these. It's a technical mastery, but actually, you know, it looks like it's a night scene, especially towards the edge. But he got the moonlight effect by pointing the camera in the direction of the sun in daylight. So that's interesting. And beginning of photojournalism. Do you guys know what Antietam is? Anybody? You guys live right near it. It's about 40 minutes, 30 minutes from you, 20 or 30. It's kind of just past Poolsville.
It was a battle, wasn't it?
It was a battle. In fact, you know, we know about Gettysburg had an overall total of massive loss. This was the single bloodiest day in the Civil War. 24,000 people died. And with this, journalism as a photographic genre, you know, truly only photographic genre becomes, and you have images of the dead at Chancellorsville, which is Antietam. This was kind of, I forget what it's called. It's called like Dead Man's Row or something. They have a name for it now, but this is the dead of Antietam. And this is Matthew Brady, who is very famous photographer because of his work on the Civil War, you know, and this is the first war to be photographed. And he had an exhibit in his New York studio called The Dead of Antietam. And I recommend you go to Antietam because it's a profound place. And someone said, a New York Times article in 1862, when he published these, or when he printed these, said, Mr. Brady has done something to bring home to us the terrible reality and earnestness of war. If he has not brought the bodies and laid them in our doorsteps and along the streets, he has done something very like it. And you have to think about this. What a shock it was to see these dead and mangled bodies to people. They weren't used. We see so much now on CNN and whatever you watch, you get inured to it, but people weren't inured to images and to the pain of others at that time. And we're going to revisit that in the Susan Sontag reading. Like I said, Susan Sontag reading. And here we have another guy, is Edward Muybridge. He's a brilliant and eccentric photographer. And we're going to see him again and again because he really did change the art world. But he
The
was
guy that by any chance did like the horse, like the hooves.
yes, he did the horse game.
Okay. Just wondering.
No, you're totally right. He was eccentric. He gained worldwide fame for animal and human movement that was imperceptible to the eye. So we had this image. Basically, he was hired by this railroad baron in California, Leland Stanford, just in 1870 something, to settle a bet to prove that there was a moment in horse's gallop where four hooves were off the ground at once. And he set up 36 camera. Remember, there was no burst mode at this time. It was really hard with like strings attached to them. And as the horse ran across these strings on a track, it would trigger the cameras. So that's where you get this kind of detail. And can anyone, so you see also that the horses are kind of, it's not all grace too. There's awkwardness in movement. So a lot of artists affected by his art, showed the awkwardness in human movement and were interested in that. So what can you, which illustrates him? Did he win? Did Stanford bet win that there was a moment when all four hooves were off the ground? Anybody?
Yeah,
Oh.
in the third photo. Yeah.
The third photo shows it.
The second and third, right?
Yeah, that does look like the second. I know definitely the third, but it looks like the second too. So he wins. Okay. And then there are those that were trying to seek protection of the natural world through their images. And we have Ansel Adams, who sought to preserve by these kind of he goes out to California. Remember, we looked at Yosemite with Bierstadt. Now, Bierstadt wanted people manifest destiny, right? He wanted people to go out and look at his paintings as places that they could, pioneer and settle. Well, this guy, just like Thomas Moran as well, were trying to influence people like Theodore Roosevelt to protect this area. And you don't see any human development in his most famous paintings. There's no human impact. It's just very, very dramatic. Like you can see, they kind of tower. And what you look at when you see these, they're very triangular in their composition. They have a lot of repetition. And in black and white photography, you want to notice the changes in value, the changes in texture. There, you have that. They're very cathedral-like. Think of a cathedral, this vertical thrust to his compositions. He's trying to kind of liken it to religious art. Like you can see here, these vertical lines, they evoke something about reaching up and spirituality. You've got this El Greco where they're floating up to heaven. And later in the 1950s, Barnett and Newman, where they have these vertical strips. Well, so are Ansel Adams. He's kind of fitting in. He's trying
even
to
the way even the way the light shines.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's theatrical and it has this religious air to it. It's coming from above, He wants it, there's something about vertical lines that are both forceful but also stable and get this kind of reaching up, uplifting, rising. So we should talk about, we're going into modernism now. Let's see. We should talk about the Industrial Revolution. We're going to be talking about Darwinism and Marxism. and all these social political changes that change the ideas that the artists are working with. And we'll be thinking about these and how both the Industrial Revolution and new ideas are affecting art, just the way we were looking at how the Enlightenment affects art. And you should really do your Enlightenment homework before you take the test, because those are questions on it that relates. So art of the Academy is, this is the kind of art that was accepted in the 19th century that they expected. This was what was making it into salons. So basically very academic, things like history paintings, subjects about myths. You got very smooth kind of a lot of glazing, very varnished to death paintings. This was convention, this perfect clouds, very fancy, things with classical themes, sort of like overly sweet versions of Poussin. Remember Poussin? I hope your substitute went over. He kind of made these landscapes that you always have like a Roman ruin in it to be legitimate, you know? But the Industrial Revolution saw other art and people reacting to it. We had this kind of urbanization and this mechanization of the workforce in the early 19th century that really transformed the 19th century and the early 20th century. So we have suddenly, you know, mass productions and production lines, which means to Marx, we're less connected to our work. But it also means, like, if you look up here, what's going on up here? Where the cursor is. What does it mean for our environment?
Pollution.
Yeah, pollution. And people are gonna want to get the hell out of Dodge. You know, there's also, as you see here, child labor, you know, but also we get train travel. So for those that can afford it, we're getting out of the city. And there's these shifting realities. We had Marx, who studied Karl Marx, who studied class structure and the way that people are tied to their production value. And he kind of looked at people as like factory owners. Those are controlling production, and those people responsible for producing, like the laborers. And he kind of saw that there was a conflict between these two classes. And he says the conflict between the people who produce and the workers, etc., and the people that kind of run, that are in power and kind of reap the benefits, this kind of conflict is what changes history. That's what is called a Marxist dialectic. It's this change in history, this conflict between these classes. So he advocated for a greater role of the working class in society. So laborers were being devalued, like people who made things, the makers. And so that was something to think of. And then Darwinism was a belief in sort of natural selection. And it contributed to growing secularization of society and this evolution. But, you know, people made fun of him all the time, like this image. This was a contemporary commentary. But so much is happening right here before we move to the United States, right? From Paris all the way to Rouen, to the coast. You know, people are based in Paris, but they leave. The ones that have money and they go outside of Paris. But there are also changes in Paris. You know, look at these pictures. You know, from this side to this side. This is early Paris before 1860. Sorry, gotta move this thing up. Before 1860, and this is Paris after 1860. What do you notice about it? Anybody? notice
I
the
don't even
difference?
know if my audio is working.
Oh,
Yeah, it
yay,
is.
it's working. Hey,
I missed like 30 minutes just trying to connect. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Is this being recorded, Professor?
I think so. I am trying. I did press record. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it says
recording.
recording.
Yeah, it's
I
Awesome.
know it's going to be super like heavy file, but it's recording. And you guys, I think, can all record it too. But I'm recording it and I will post it.
Oh, excellent. I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm using something like this, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
hey, you and me both. I've been working
Same
on
here.
it. I've been messing up. So what do you notice? Oh, wait, how did I do that? Okay. Sorry. Okay, between the two, what do you notice?
Massive spike in population. It's really dense.
Yes, but no, well, we're not seeing it overall. It was very dense here, like too dense, actually.
Okay.
But
Oh
and the
my
street,
God, they built roads.
yeah, the streets
Yeah.
were very narrow, right? And here you've got these broad boulevards that this is what the designer or who the impetus was, this was L'Enfant who designed this, and he designed DC, was these big circles that you see here, and then long boulevards that would extend from them. And it was great, there was much more order. It was broad boulevards. There was also, notice everything, all the buildings are in the same level. They kind of lowered it for more light, you could say, for artists. But it was really, on this side, it was really a crowded, dense, very organic in some ways, things built everywhere, medieval city before that. And after that, there was waterways, sewer systems, improved health, less disease, symmetry. It kind of looked really pretty. So this was all done by this guy, Baron von Haussmann, who redesigned the streets of Paris into these wonderful wide boulevards. And along with it came the invention of the light bulb, the railway, the cameras we've seen, cast iron buildings, tall cast iron. We get eventually the Eiffel Tower. It's a spectacle. It's a consumerist society, right? There's a biennial where every 2 years artists come about. There's salons, there's horse racing, there's boating parties, there's trip to the suburbs. But who is taking part in all that? Like who's buying things from China, Asia, and who's getting to be a part of salons and buy things and go on boating parties? Yeah, who? Eileen, go ahead.
The wealthy?
Yeah, and a new class of people,
The
the
bourgeoisie.
bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie, it's like upper middle class, like that. And when you say something's bourgeois, it usually confers sort of a materialism, someone that is wealthy and but not wealthy, kind of wealthy, and likes to buy a lot of stuff. Super wealthy don't need to buy things. They just have things. So when you get all this elasticity, all these things, other people that were living here, well, first of all, two things. A lot of people are forced to leave. They cannot afford it. Their houses are toppled. The slums were toppled. And they're living now on the outskirts while the center of the city might have light bulbs, for most Parisians, they were still going by the light of the moon up into 1900. And so the painters that we look at, and these people are left. But another thing I just wanted to let you know, one of the main reasons they have these big wide boulevards, of course, they're beautiful to walk down, but the big wide boulevards are much better than these little tiny streets for stopping rebellions. And the Parisians and the French, they still do. You know, they love to strike. They were rebelling, and Napoleon III wanted to tap that down ASAP. And so he did it architecturally. He did it with art. He did it with architecture. And, you know, they could rebel in one area or protest or something and then scurry off down these little streets. But this would be very hard to do that when you have armies just marching and plowing right through. So that's the note. So we think of who is taking part of these trips to the suburbs, the new consumerism, the going to the dances at the Follies. It's the bourgeois and the painters, you know, the lower class, you know, this is not taking part. And you know what the painters are doing, they're painting the modern life, the trips to the suburbs, this consumer society, this kind of salons, horse races, and all the things that impressionists paint. They're painting the bourgeoisie, the life of the bourgeoisie. So it's you know, which is different. They're not painting the elites anymore. They're not painting the kings and the queens. They're painting the upper middle class. But there were some artists that took exception to that. Let's see. So here is the sort of the pre and the post, right? Looks like it's made for totally different people. And these are the, you know, this is the life of the bourgeoisie. This is like, forget this Pisarro or Seurat, but here's these big boulevards. You know, it was beautiful. It's the advantages of industrial revolution. And here we get a recording, basically, of the Paris that Haussmann built. An artist's impression of the urban life. By the way, an artist who was born very wealthy and supported other artists. This is Gustave Cabot, Paris a Rainy Day, right, in 1877, a really brilliant composition. And he's, right, you see these big avenues. But it's interesting, there's these kind of randomly placed people and this asymmetrical perspective where you have all this action down here balanced out with this big swath of open space, because this is heavy. Placement is very heavy in terms of balance. So it's modern life. There's arcades where people can shop, passageways of shops. It's consumerism. It's modernity. But look at how he's defined it with this beautiful rhythm. What's creating the rhythm?
The umbrellas.
The umbrellas. Yeah. That repetition of the umbrella feature creates this unifying, that and the yellow of the buildings, because they're all this, Paris is all this wonderful kind of light bouncing limestone.
I think also the dark clothing.
Yeah, the dark, so you've got those three elements. Yeah, that's a good point. It is a very restrained palette if you think about it. There's only 3 strong colors.
The light post in the middle also feels like a divider. Feels like it's dividing the painting as well.
Yeah, it does. That's interesting. The way he's done the light. He's kind of restrained the palette to make it approachable. Because imagine if that had many, many different colors and a real like tenebrism as the lighting, it would be too much. But he's done such kind of clever ways by restraining it and then putting in the harmonies and shifting the light, that it is very approachable. And look at the way it has that diagonal diagonal that kind of goes up the picture plane. I mean, that's also kind of interesting and dramatic. So we're talking about modernism. I mean, this is what we're really getting into, is like we get further when in the next 2 classes, but where this influence in technological changes, this advances in optics, this increase in exposure to other cultures, it led to a sense of impermanence. And remember Courbet with the stone cutters. He's really modernistic, but the modern movement in terms of look took off with impressionists, the post-impressionists, and symbolism. So all these writings of Darwin and Marx reinforced an awareness of the constant shift of reality that artists responded to, and our artists were responding to. So the industrialization led to great changes, advantages for the elite. But like I said, most of Paris was without light. So we got to remember who was receiving this and what was it real, because we just think of advancements, but not of who was benefiting and really how far wide reaching it was. So some artists showed the images of those living the good life. That's the Impressionists, taking trains out to pleasure spots, and they're fun. Like when you look at them, you feel like you're on a trip, But people working in factories no longer had a connection or ownership to their work like they did when they were really literally making every part to what they were doing. And when you're working for a massive company. So artists started to address that too. And modernists seek to capture realities of their age, but modernism transcends the simple goal of depicting the real world, which is what realism strives for, right? Is what Courbet. Modernism is interested in depicting the limits of the picture plane, and it also is questioning what is art. And no one is going to do that more than like Duchamp, we're going to see in 2 classes, and Picasso. So Manet is, I'm sure other people will want to spend less time with this, but I feel like he is one of the greatest painters we have after Velázquez. He started as a realist, right? Showing the realities of life in and around Paris. And he continued to do so even after starting to do Impressionism style. He kind of took on topics that weren't, that were a little darker than Impressionists would. And you kind of see the transition when of his brushstrokes from tight to something called finial or tache. This is like an Impressionist brushstroke. So we've got realism on the left, looking at the life of the wandering musician and etc. And there's tight brushstrokes, and Impressionism on the right, where he cares about the essence of the moment and the atmosphere and capturing the light on the water, and that would be finial brushstrokes.
But even before, he would still have like a bit of impressionist, like in his like backgrounds and.
Oh, definitely. Like he was loose. Yeah. Yeah. He mixed and matched his looseness and his tightness. That's like Velázquez. He could really handle both. And he's as pivotal in 19th century as Courbet, because he really articulated realist principles, but also was like kind of a forefather of Impressionism, like you said. And Manet, he challenged the taste of the bourgeois, which are constantly being challenged for the next, 70 years. And, it's kind of funny because bourgeois are the people who bought a lot of these paintings. So it's like, who are they trying to kid? But he inherited Daumier also. Remember Daumier, who did the people in the third class carriage, or the man who was murdered with his child underneath him?
Mhm.
He wants to look at modern life and what it's all about, and that's why he's considered the first truly modern painter. Here's an absinthe drinker, which is a huge painting, with this brush stroke and paint handling that references early paintings. It's a full-length portrait of an alcoholic rag picker who frequented the area around the Louvre Museum, and you would sell rags for money at the time. He's mostly painted in like what 3 tones is he painted in? Anybody? Really? Okay.
No, I have it.
Brown.
Can you hear
Huh?
me?
Yeah. What do you say?
Okay. You said tones, right?
Mhm.
So it's definitely well, it looks soft to me, but I obviously it's kind of dark. I see some of that tenebrism working in the background a little bit,
Yeah.
uh, just a little bit.
Yeah. And he has all these kind of browns and blacks palette, that kind of restricts it. And I like how he's dressed, though he's obviously poor, like an aristocrat, with like the hat. But he's sitting with an empty bottle. And do you notice the color of the liquid that is next to him? It's kind of a greenish, and that would have been absinthe on the ledge. This half drunk glass of absinthe, and that was the absinthe was known to put people in a great stupor, and it was a problem with like working class. But he takes this kind of mundane subject and he makes it a large scale. It's about 180 centimeters. It's huge. And it's inspired by Velázquez, that palette, the monumentalism. And he was criticized for his visible brushstrokes and for painting an alcoholic. And it was rejected from the salon. And people looked at it, they thought that absinthe was morally degenerate. And this is actually one of the earliest depictions of absinthe in art. And Degas depicts it later with washerwomen. But you can see here with Manet has kind of further. So this image we see of Velázquez is of Aesop. Remember this image? And Aesop, it was like a street philosopher. And I think Velázquez was bringing him to life. And there were people like that in Spain that were homeless and then would like philosophize and live on donations. And he was treating Aesop like that. But Aesop, he's not read in classics departments. You read Homer and you read Cicero. But Velázquez there was saying that this man of the people was also a titan of thinking. And here are his two. Here's the rag picker, and I forget. I think this is also a rag picker. But you can see. Can you guys see the similarities in the treatment? Well, one, their values, the sepia, the brown, the blacks. Well, also, they all have this shallow depth of space. And remember, Velázquez, when he was working, in 200 years before, the main artist was Rubens, and he was painting things with like huge columns and people like overstuffed and overdressed everywhere. So this is kind of a simple space and the simple composition. But all of them are making these simple people very heroic. And one of the reasons that you guys should know about this, that the relationship with the Spanish painting, is that Napoleon, remember that the 3rd of May, that image by Goya where all the Napoleon's guards are shooting down the Spaniards? Do you guys remember that painting?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So 3rd of May. Okay, during that siege of Napoleon in Madrid, he took all the great Spanish collection back to Paris. So they had Velázquez, they had Cerberon, they had all these great paintings, and in the Louvre, and the French artists who had normally just been looking at Titian and Rubens and the Italians and the Dutch started seeing Spanish art for the first time. And that's where you get the French taste for Spanish painting. And it just totally transformed. And you can see in Manet's next piece, you see he's got the tenebrism of Caravaggio, and yet He has this kind of piety of Zerberons, monks in prayer, and this is Jesus, Christ mocked by the soldiers. He just imbues every subject with deep beauty and question of being in the modern world. But you really get that a lot from his influence by Spanish artists. And then even in this image of a lapdog, this is King Charles Spaniel, right? It hangs in the National Gallery. I'm like, really, Manet did that? But it's still dark. There's something dark about it. But this is what they really look like. They're very fun. Just kidding. And here's one thing he said: it's not enough to know your craft. You have to have feeling. And science is all very well, but for us, imagination is worth far more. And so Edward Manet, this is a monument. This is in our National Gallery. And it's huge. At the time, most huge paintings they're not of landscapes, they're not of portraits unless they're kings, they're of history paintings or important people, right? And here, or religion, and modern art wants new ways to represent new reality and address social norms. And Degas and the Impressionists were interested in the modern now. The size is really important. And you're going to see later with Degas, he's interested in the behind the scenes stories of the lowly ballet. He gets this from Courbet.
One thing I don't understand, why did they repaint him in there? Like also paint him in this painting.
The absinthe drinker?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot. He wasn't, I think this is someone he knew, and he sat for him as a model, and he's making a story, right? So this is The Wanderer. This is, I think, this is a wanderer, like someone from Jewish folklore maybe, and this is the wandering musician. These people, and I love like dark black outlines. It's very Japanese. But these are not the people going to the parks, right? And to the parties in etc. Who are these people? Remember I talked about Haussmann's Paris and what happened when he had remodeled it?
These were all the people living on the outskirts.
Yes. These are people displaced by Napoleon III, the people on the margins of life. And Manet goes in and he paints them so super huge that you can't stick it in a drawer. You can't ignore them. And that action was revolutionary. These are the people the bourgeois relied upon but forgot. And Manet kind of leans into that. This is intense, this piece. This is, he's critiquing the history of art in this painting in some ways, but really what are we looking at? I mean, let's just say one thing. There's a bunch of different paintings and different types of art in this. Like, if I look here, I think of like a classical Greek caryatid and a Greek statue in one of like in the Parthenon somewhere. But what else do we see here? What other kind of paintings?
Does it look like two young guys with a naked lady and another lady in the background?
Yeah.
So she's looking for something in the pond.
Yeah. So she's looking. This is totally random. Like, it doesn't make any sense. This face back here.
Well, maybe.
But she looks kind of like Grecian. She's got like a Grecian gown, and we have like a group portrait. But we also have a nude drawing, a female nude drawing.
We've got some exotics in there, like the like the man that's parallel to the woman is clearly not from Europe. Like he's got like Middle Eastern headdress.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of playing at being, I think,
Oh,
or I think
okay.
he's one of, Orientalism. Remember we were talking about that Orientalism with the woman lying down, that people would play act of knowing what the Asian life was like. But yeah, I think that's his brother maybe. But then he's got like a landscape, right? And then he also has um like a landscape, like a pastoral, like a Poussin, like a French landscape. And then there's the portraiture, and then there's a still life happening, but it's also kind of a genre painting. It's like some, life as it happens, and a nude. It's
It
like,
also seems like
huh?
it also seems like she's the only one aware of the painter or like the viewer.
Exactly. She's staring him down. And also she's staring him down, and there's these different kind of random regions in the scene several regions that don't make sense. But just what we said, here are the guys fully clothed, and she's kind of in this diaphanous Grecian gown. And then we've got this, as you said, looking at her. I forgot, I should write down who's been saying these things. For points. Here's a modern woman. She's stark naked in the open air. Like, what's that all about, right?
Oh, is it supposed to be a prostitute? Sorry.
That's pretty close. I mean, that seems like it, because there's no way to make sense out of it, social sense. Like, if she was a prostitute, why would they be all in their nice dressed and out in a public area? And it was huge. It's at the Courtauld in London, and people were like, it's too big, it's out of control, there's too many things going on. But maybe it's marvelous for their criticism.
Before there was one of two men where the two ladies were like supposed to be muses or something.
Yeah, maybe maybe the back would be allusion to muse. That's a good point. So people were dumbfounded, because pictures tell stories, and Manet was confronting them. If you look at it, he's confronting the audience with something that defies a neat story, just like you were saying. It's like, these guys are talking, the woman's in their midst, the woman's doing something, but we don't know what she's doing in the back with the water. But the naked woman stares directly at us again and again in a very bold and interested way. It's kind of disjointed scene, and I think you guys see this stupid thing here. You see there's a bird up there. I wrote too much. I can't fix it. There's a bird here, just to let you know. There's a bird, and it's like there's a random bird and this untouched picnic, and you think the painting is going to deliver some story, but the more you look at it, it just doesn't. This is Luncheon in the Grass, Edward Manet. And it's a large-scale painting that breaks all the rules and caused this huge scandal in art history, because it's super in-your-face nude painting. And in fact, I would argue that it's not nude, that it's naked. Because it's huge scale, it's ambition, and it challenges all the nudes that came before it. And with this one painting, you've got a whole new chapter of art opening. So
How big is it?
it's
How big is the painting?
oh god, it's like, I feel like it's at least 10 feet wide.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know how tall, but I have to look it up, and I should have put that down. It's huge for what it is, so it's this, it breaks the rules, it's in your face. It's and I think about the male gaze you know, and what's happening with that? Are they ridiculing it, you know? Or is it saying, I know you're looking at me. I know about this. You guys, what's the male gaze? And you don't want to take a stab at what they think it is?
I actually think that the guy next to her is looking at us too. A little bit, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of like off to the side. But just so you know, for the test, the male gaze is like the history of making art depicting women for the men to look at, you know, and them looking and in the way a man look, depicting a woman the way a man would look at her as an object. You know, that's the male gaze. So, and that's, he paint, all these people are people he knew, which is interesting to me. But if you look at this, everything points to her, like the emphasis and the implied lines, the angling, like that going straight to her, like the tilt of his head, you know, it kind of all frames them too.
Yeah, his legs and the stick.
Yeah, good point. So it's
Yeah,
like
the picnic and all that.
Yeah, and these are all emphasis. These are all ways of emphasizing. And you know, it's referring to classical models of the Renaissance and Greek art, kind of like there's a painting by Titian that's where women are nymphs and mythological figures, but she's not a myth, you know. And I think it's there's something about this having them modern people, not classical ideals. She's emphasized her nakedness, you know. It's like a medical light on her. It's not soft, kind of makes it more scrutable. And also it's her, I'd say she's not nude, she's naked, because it's emphasized that she's taken off her clothes. She just arrived in nude paintings of nudes, they just arrive that way. But here she's taken off a very fashionable dress, you know, and she's kind of unabashed, you know, gazing at the viewer without shame or even flirtatiousness. You know, I think her awareness of us makes her not nude, and it makes her naked. And her awareness, she doesn't have, but people didn't like it because it looked like she needed to go to the spa. She didn't look like a Venus, didn't look like a you know, that place, it didn't look like she was someone people could retreat with. She looked like a model, like a normal model, and that she was his model, and it was audacious because it wasn't idealized and it wasn't in a idyllic setting. You know, it's been light brushstrokes of like abstract space back here. And what Les Deux offered them was ordinary men and promiscuous women in a city park. And that was shocking. And she looks so ordinary. She could be the mistress of the art patron, right? So somebody comes, she looks like the girl, this man and his wife, some art patron comes to the museum and stares at her. Well, she looks kind of like someone who'd probably be one of his mistresses. And she's looking out and she's saying, I am here. But does the madam next to you know that I am here? You know, by the way, Manet contracted syphilis. So if you look closely enough, there's like a coded comment on what was happening in the classes at the time. And I think there's a frog down, see this, there's a frog in a small corner. That's also coded for prostitute. But she was 18 years old. She was also a painter and a model. Her works are lost. And he used who she was and she painted it. And in the painting, he changed the way people painted nudes. And of course, Degas does it one more time. So, you know, but there's so much going on. There's a history painting in its size. He's critiquing again, like Velázquez. What's he does that Velázquez does? What does he do that Velázquez does?
Doesn't
Yeah, Alana, go for it.
he? Oh,
So he paints modern, like not modern, but like he paints common folk and
Yes.
that.
What about also the gays, Alana?
Is it just a commentary on like how women are perceived?
Yeah, that's true. And like how kind of hypocritical men are.
Yeah.
But also think about Velázquez looking out. He critiques the subject-viewer relationship. You know, in like Velázquez, the key figure includes you. You're part of the party when she's looking out at you. And he's critiquing painting techniques, right? Not just subject matter. You know, technique even got criticism. So loose contrast with harsh, you know, lighting in the foreground. The trio kind of the lighting flattens the forms. Background landscape is just super loose, and you know, Manet
Is there a
doesn't
lot of
depend.
impasto?
Huh?
Is there a lot of impasto on there?
No, but I can see where you see that because of the brightness of some of the things. He's moving away from illusionism, like from the perfect finish, though, by openly acknowledging the painting, such as the flatness of the painting surface. By painting loosely, it doesn't look flat and seamless. Cezanne really takes after that. You get that, you know, he really bleeds into Cezanne. So we're getting this whole change in history paintings, from the licked finish and the perfect brushstrokes of the neoclassical style, you know, with the Oath of Horatii. You know, this painting is also kind of as large as the David painting, but it is playing fast and loose with ideas of society, ideas of what a painting could be, the relationship with the viewer. And here are some artists that have taken it on. This is Picasso. This is a joke, I think. The Star Wars. This is Mickalene Thomas, who I love. This is a photographer from the 80s. Okay. And here's another one, a feminist, kind of interested in the transgender movement took upon. It's been a lightning rod of controversy, you know, since it was exhibited in 1863. An African-American artist kind of entered a confrontational dialogue with Manet, and particularly modernism in general. So there's been a lot of talk with them, influences them. Okay, so I am going to offer this. I was thinking we could take like a 10-minute break and I could do 20 more minutes. You know, that's probably like a 10-minute break, and then I'll like close it, and then you go back to the link in 10 minutes. And then we can get as much as we can, because this whole thing is on the test. And there are some questions I want to go over with you that are like test questions. But if we can't, I'll make a recording of it. I'll figure out how to do it, and I'll put it up. I'll figure out how to make a video and give my lecture, if that's okay.
Wait, all of this is gonna be on the test? Sorry, I wasn't here for I was for the first few minutes, but I didn't hear anything after that.
Yeah, this lecture goes with the test.
Okay.
But she's recorded it, remember? So you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, I recorded it, and then I was gonna take 10 minutes and do another about 25 minutes, like finish out Impressionism with you, because we have Impressionism and Degas, and that's it. But we gotta I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I wanted to go over some concepts that are going to be on the test, and I can make a video of it and do the best I can with it. It's just good to have you here and your questions.
Okay.
What do you guys feel like?
Do it live.
Yeah, I'm okay with staying.
I need a 10-minute
Okay,
break.
that's no problem.
I need to make a cup of tea. I don't know why I'm so exhausted. I think I was so stressed about this working out. Okay, so I'm gonna take a 10-minute break, and we'll do. I can either stay on, or we can just close it down and restart. It's
I
up to
mean,
you.
we can just keep it up until
Okay,
like we come
let's
back
keep
or
it up.
whatever.
No, please don't close it. Because
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I don't want to close it. Good. I just need to like make a coffee. I've been so worried that this wouldn't work out, and yeah, I need a little break. Okay, let's see. I'll give my, I'll put the timer on. Timer. Okay, 10 minutes, guys.
Okay.
I'm just making my tea. Um, I have to. Okay. I'm trying to. That's so annoying. Where's my Zoom? Aha. What do you like better?
I like that one.
I was trying to go with like our class. Okay.
Yeah, the swing is nice. It
Yeah, I
adds
like this
certain
one the most.
something.
It's not.
It
as
kind of
dark.
matches your shirt too.
I gotta stop it. I totally have like all the. Remember this is Bierstadt, Manifest Destiny. It's flipping them. That's interesting. It flips them. Okay. I gotta get my tea. Head into the mist. Okay. All right, we're back. This is good. All right. Okay. Now for the last part. This is one long PowerPoint, let me tell you. It's like 3 classes. I keep adding to it, you know, because I keep learning more. Okay, you guys know where we are? Where that is? Not, this is the Fragonard. Remember, what is a fête galante? Did she teach you that?
Expensive courtship parties. Yeah, we went over.
Yeah,
that.
it's like going out and having parties in nature, and they're like paintings of parties in nature of rich people where the nature is really manicured. I'm just trying to help you so you start understanding how the landscape has been portrayed. Okay, so here we are. You guys can mute yourself and then unmute yourself when you want to talk. It seems to be working out great. Did I unmute? Oh wait, Xavier, unmuted. Okay. Anybody? Yeah, whatever. Okay. So do you guys know where we are in this image?
Is it Normandy?
I know, right? Where in France is it? Because we're stuck in the middle of France right now. It's St. Thomas Virgin Islands, which is funny that we're starting a major modern art movement in St. Thomas. When you've been to St. Thomas, it's kind of a honky tonk, but it has nice beaches. So this is where the father of Impressionists Camille Pizarro came from. His family had a hardware store, but the most interesting thing about them was they were Jewish, and they were given his last name. They were Sephardic Jewish, and I happen to know that the Jews that settled in the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, came around the 16th century from Morocco. Anyway, there weren't many famous practicing Jewish artists before Pizarro, although definitely the 20th century sees a lot of them. Because one reason, it says in the Talmud, you say, you shall not make for yourself a likeness of the heavens above or earthly realm. So it was forbidden. That's why there are no paintings or sculptors in synagogues, but Pizarro's family are a bit of rebels. There was a marriage that was disapproved of by the synagogue. Pisarro drew all the times on the docks of working women. Here he was, a Jewish boy. I think, just imagine yourself, stuck 4,500 miles from the art world in Paris. I mean, the art world was a center in Paris. And think about where we've been that have been art world. We started out in Florence. The center was Florence. Then the center was Rome. Then the center was Paris. And then it tousled. It was in Naples and Rome, or in the north. It was in Brussels and Amsterdam. And we had, where else? Then suddenly we landed on Paris. And Paris kind of holds the reins for a long time of being the center of the art world. And he's far from it. I mean, think about it. Where would he have gotten materials? He would have to grind his own paints and shove them into pig's bladders and carry them around. I need to manipulate this better. Come on. Just go away. Oh, there. That's good. Okay, sorry. Okay. So, but then in 1841, an American working in England, and I just opened one of his tubes today on one of my paintings, Winsor Newton. Oh, never mind. I'm going to show you my painting. Probably wouldn't show on this thing. The impact of, he made the paint tube, and that's enormous, very liberating. And you could say Impressionism had its birth with someone who was born in the Caribbean, in St. Thomas. He was their teacher. And Impressionism wouldn't have happened without the experimentations of Pisarro and the invention of art supplies. The Impressionists only had 8 shows, and the only one who appeared in all of them was Pisarro. So Paris was moving at a new speed. In 1850s, it had 1 million people. It only, in 2 decades, with all these inventions, it doubled to 2 million people. It was wild. 1/3 of the babies were born out of wedlock. Women were enjoying new freedom they hadn't before. They were called lorettes. And Pisarro came from a really conservative environment. His mother and his stepsister and her children came with him to Paris to basically to keep an eye on him. So they were all stuck in this little apartment. And to me, it's a small wonder that his paintings were just like an attempt to get away from it all. They really, Impressionists, they were concerned with, one thing you have to know about them, they weren't sitting there thinking that they were painting the bourgeois. They were really trying to figure out light and how it worked. And they were interested in science of color and science of optics. And art moved outdoors with them. Impressionists took their canvases and brushes and painted outside, although often finished them inside. So that's kind of a misnomer. But they were interested in all this optics and the effect of optics on color. And they were interested in the exact moment. What is the exact moment? when I say they painted outside, they painted what this says, in plein air. That means outside. They dropped the use of black and they used tache, small brush strokes. T-A-C-H-E was their brush strokes. You could also call them finial.
Isn't the reason why they did that is because they can capture the moment, because the sun moves, so like the position of the sun moves, so where the light's shining also moves, so they try to do it quicker. I don't know if that's real
Do
or
that.
not.
What do you mean that?
Sorry. So they
yes.
try to like paint us because they want to get like an exact way where the sun is like positioned and the way it shines the light on like certain objects or outside.
Yes. Yes. They did. And so new art supplies, art goes outside, plein air, plain outside, upper middle class life. They drop the black in the palette, but of course some have black in the palette. So, you know, these are just the general rules. They use these small strikes. They were interested in optics. They're breaking color into patches. Just really capturing the specific quality of the exact moment, the atmosphere, the time, the weather, the changes in light and optics. So they're not interested in making fête galants or putting Romanized, classicized Europe into making a landscape legitimate, or trying to save, these are all the different landscapes that are trying to save the planet or reflect the, do conservation or reflect emotional states or psychological states, as we saw with luminism. This really is about getting that moment down. Okay, so I pixelated this. Don't worry, I'm trying to go with something. What do you think this is? This is like a mashup. What do you think this is?
It looks like it would be a landscape because I see all the lines of green and then the lines of blue up top.
Yeah, so like green for what? For grass?
Like grass and trees, because you have like the browns in the middle that could be like tree trunks, and then another band of greens.
Yeah.
Some
So
type of like
the colors are
farming.
different greens, yeah?
Yeah, like crops or farming or something like that.
Yeah, like it has that, it's almost like the kind of quality with all the stripes, like you're driving, you know, by it. So what season might this be in if it's these greens and browns and blues?
Like spring or summer.
Yeah.
Summer
like if
going
it's
on to
spring,
fall.
it might be less green, right? Like it's spring now, it's pretty gross out, right? You have to wait. People think, oh, spring is full of color, but it takes a while for that to happen, right? Like late spring at most, right? Or
yeah.
And you get a sense of that because it's like green, really, really green, and there isn't like red pinks and things like that. It's just like really the green of summer.
So it's like a landscape painting.
Yeah, it's like these are the stuff of a landscape. Can you guess any other thoughts, like what time of day or anything?
Well, there's no sun, so it's probably midday. Like it's not dusk or dawn.
Yeah, it's not night, that's for sure, right? So we're getting these are like clues that Impressionists want to give us just by the color they choose, right? And so I pixelated the colors that they choose, and a friend helped me do it. I'll never be able to do it again. But this is the image that it was, and this is Pisarro. And I love this image. It's at the Guggenheim. And here we are, you know, Pisarro had a hard life compared to the other Impressionists. Like most go on about the hardships they endured before becoming famous. He really endured hardships. He was impoverished and put upon for his career, despite being the real teacher of the movement. So this made him sensitive to little things, like the places we walk past, the people the rest of us might ignore, except Manet. So while the rest of his gang we see are attracted to the countryside where like like well-dressed ladies walk in the breeze or people gaily lunch at boating parties. His countryside is somewhere where you like grow things and you work hard and you connect to the earth and you like do your bit. But he's a revolutionary, you know, just see what he captured. So we got this here by looking just at his colors, right? That it was like early summer, late spring, early summer sometime.
Yeah.
And what else can we say?
Like afternoon.
Yeah, and what tells you that?
The shadows on the under the people, the shadows of the trees.
The trees, yeah.
It shows that
Yeah.
the sun's like directly above, kind of.
Yeah. And yeah, and so okay, and what's the what do you think the temperature is looking out there?
I would say like pretty like hot, I guess, because the sun is pretty vibrant.
And
Okay.
going by the clothes they're wearing, it doesn't look like they're wearing a lot of layers, and someone has an umbrella to kind of give them some shade, so I think it would be kind of warm.
Yeah, and with these kids, she has like a shawl. I guess, do you think maybe like, so how warm do you think? Some says really hot.
Like maybe like 70-ish.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like mid-70s.
Yeah, I think pleasant warm because they probably didn't have like the really hot weather that we're used to now.
And
Because
they
it
are
was
cooking with fires.
yeah, but they're
So it's
also
not
like
super hot.
outside.
It's not super hot. Yeah, I would say that 68, 70s, like you're saying. So interesting. Think of it. Are we getting humidity or dry?
I wouldn't say that it's humid. It looks more dry.
Yeah, a little dry because you could see the dirt a little dried up. It would have been darker color if it was more humid or wet at least.
Okay. So it's kind of, so it's, we've got in this painting the season, maybe even the month. Anybody want to take a stab at the month? If we're going late spring, early summer.
Maybe like early June.
Okay, so we've got early June, we've got season, we've got month, we've got time of day, you know, 1, 2, 12, we talked about up here. We could even say it was exact. We could probably even come up with an exact if we really looked at the shadows. We've got the temperature, exact almost to like low 70s or something. We kind of really pinpoint. We have the atmosphere as dry. We have all of these information. It's so specific to a moment that we could put ourselves there and feel it. I mean, that is phenomenal, you know? And so, you know, and not only that, he's doing more with light. He's looking at all this Ogden Rood and these different like art writers, Maurice Chevreul, and harmonies of color and how shades could be used to convey a sense of space. And he used light as a dominant feature. He drops black, and we're getting exactness, like we're saying, breaking up color into patches of light, showing effects of light, showing the atmosphere, showing the time of day. Using finial brush strokes or Tash brush strokes, I guess. You know, it's an impressionism that artists play with the optical mixture of colored light, and they go outside and paint. And when we go forth in the next paintings, it might appear that Pisarro is the realist of the bunch, and in many ways, it's true. But they're all kind of doing is the application of color. In this painting is something beyond representation of a scene. They're observations of atmosphere, of shade, of light, of recreation of atmosphere. So it's interesting, you know, in all these paintings, the viewer completes the image because when you look close, they dissolve into little like strikes. Look at that's so cute. Tree pie. Aw. Okay, so oil paints and tubes, major innovation, collapsible tubes. You can go outside. You know, we got new colors invented, and it allowed people to go outside. And they also developed easels that were collapsible. That was money for them. You know, people still use the same easels the Impressionists did. They were so good. And pre-stretched canvases that you could buy in Paris and take to the country. And furthermore, look at these. They're called ferrules. See these? This ferrule. Oh, wow, it can show it's there too. Hey. So see that, the ferrule, that was major. So in Rembrandt's day, they were painting with things like this. But now they could sharpen and hone and actually really shape a brush so they could get these exact things. Can you imagine how hard it was to paint the Mona Lisa with something like this? It's incredible. And so here's the strikes. Here's Impressionist tache brush strokes, also called filio. And you would use them, you know, they didn't call it Impressionists. It's just a nasty kind of critic called them impressions of paintings, not paintings. And that's how they got the term. And now, you know, they're like jokey. You know, Impressionism makes its way to dentist's office and bags and lugs. But it doesn't belong on a coffee mug. It's more a case of dynamite, Impressionism, because it challenged everything, and they radically challenged how we viewed the world. And these are some books, like this is Ogden Rood. They also, he was American, Henri Chevrel. They were inquiry into the application of color. They were interested in the outside world and optics and contrasting colors and complements. And looking how the viewer combined colors when viewing dabs of color placed next to each other. So it really advanced the work of the Impressionists, the Post-Impressionists, etc. So secondary colors, these are primaries. These are secondaries, the tertiary, but we really are interested, you know, tertiaries are when you combine a primary, two primaries, you get a tertiary. So, you know. And what they were interested in is how colors vibrate off each other. Complements. Complements are two colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. Oh, and when you combine them together, they kind of vibrate. And analogous colors, and these are very good for you doing anything in decoration, like interior decorators. Analogous colors are like three colors next to each other, and they are very harmonious. Whereas these colors next to each other really charge and pop out. And these new attitudes in color optics really help Impressionists transform what art knew of the vision. So they'd match two primary colors next to each other. You make a new color in your eye called a broken color, like this. And a broken color is a technique that so instead of blending them, Impressionists would make an effort to capture the sensation of light. Remember, that's what I want you to remember Rembrandt does, right? He has light kind of vibrating, and so does Velázquez, you know, 200 years before these guys, right? Velázquez is putting red and white on a flower, and then you combine it to pink. So this slide shows how two colors blend in the eye and create vibrancy. Then one pre-color straight from the tube, pre-mixed with the palette. And these are analogous colors. And the first spot on the far left is the orange color is straight from the tube. That's like a tube color. The second is what I was talking about, the broken color, yellow and red. And then this is the same yellow on top of a wet spot of red, kind of crumbling it in. And the fourth is a result of yellow mixed into red using a wet into dry, just scrumbling, painting. I don't want to get too into that. It's almost the same as the third, but as you can see, it's more vibrant. And the last patch on the right is the result of directly just mixing it, the two paints together and laying them on. So, but if you can see here, the second, the fourth, and the fifth are the most vibrant and interesting because they not only are mixed, but they vibrate, and none of them are blended on the palette. They're blended right on the paper. This would be made. This is when, you know, made blended on the palette. And Monet mixes colors using a wet into wet technique. And he would mix a series of secondary colors on the palette and place them side by side all over, or keep the colors separate. I don't know if that was useful to you, but I'm trying to just show you how they created color. It was different than before, where they would just like take something like this and mix it up on their, they just mix it on their palette and then apply it to the painting. Whereas these were kind of laid on top of each other or next to each other on the painting, and the viewer had to blend them in their own eyes. Does that make any sense? You can see it here, how they're kind of laid on. Does that make sense, or was that too long and a waste of time?
I think that what you're saying is that the colors, the further away we look at it, the more they vibrate, I suppose, or they make more sense. But the more closer you get to them, you're like you can notice, you know, the brushes, I suppose.
Exactly. We blend. Also, we naturally blend them in our eyes. And colors when they're posed next to each other, like that are contrast, they vibrate, and we don't even realize it. They just create a vibration. But they kind of impose on each other. So a lot of simultaneous contrast. Whereas, yeah, and when you get close, you separate them. But when you pull back, you blend them with your eyes. So I'm just gonna say he would use secondary colors, Monet, Claude Monet. He would mix on the canvas cadmium yellow and cobalt blue to create green. But look at how Monet warmed the sky towards the horizon and darkened and cooled the sky towards the horizon. Towards mountain. It's like it's kind of warm, and then up here it's kind of cool. But it's kind of funny when I look at this. Like, look at this one. This is shadows on the sea. You know, there's well-dressed ladies on the sea at Pourville. So it's like everything looks so pleasant and welcoming at times, and they completely capture the light, and they were intended to capture the light, the atmosphere, the feel of that exact moment as they make a step through the cool grass swaying in the breeze. And you can see these things in their relaxed mood everywhere in Impressionism. But it's so much more than that. Achieving these pleasing moods was pleasant, as well as, and the life of the bourgeois. But in the making of these things couldn't be further from the truth. It wasn't super pleasant. Even those things are collapsible, it's still hard to drag all that crap around, you know? So achieving this sense of outdoor relaxation was painfully painful. But they wanted to paint what they could see and what was really there. And they wanted to capture the exact moment. And in Monet's case, it was water. So, you know, in Impressionism, we get the revenge of the nice, something wholly different and unexpected. In fact, it was deemed quite vulgar in the beginning, Monet painting in plein air. But before, you would never go outdoors. And they had this recently set up rail network, and single men could go out and boat and picnic. Monet, he followed nature and weekend leisure resorts outside of Paris in the suburbs.
Is this a photograph?
Yeah, just him. So we don't have money, but just remember, it's big money now, but at time impressionists were completely worthless. I was gonna do a deep dive of how he painted this, but we will never finish. This is like layers and how he did it, and I just researched it and went into the little, but look how he used complements, just so you can see. He makes colors pop by having the reds, the oranges right here, or right here, with its complement, which is right across the color wheel. So you see, he's using them, and they definitely pop more closely. Okay, and these are the different techniques I had him use. I determined he had used. How did this go? Oh, do we go back? Okay, so he goes to train stations, Paris train station, Paris de Gare, and he would go and he would set up in the train station, and he would bully the train masters until they all got their smoke or going, or their fog or whatever it is going at the same time, so you could get the right effects for his painting. But he was really interested in painting by photography too, and was interested in the effect that it had. But Impressionism is different than photography. It's saying, well, we're not photographs, so we are going to be emotional, we're going to be aesthetically heightened, we're going to be intensified. Most Impressionists painted scenes in and around Paris, actually, and not always outside. And he did these train scenes, and it's just the height of modernity, the vitality of a transportation hub in Paris. This is Gare Saint-Lazare. And he was a moneymaker, Monet, and he was devoted, even though his paintings early on weren't liked, he made series. And he would do a series of one thing, whether it's haystacks, his haystacks are super beautiful, but he would just go deep and capture it in different moments of light, air, temperature, etc. He even dressed up in fancy clothes, right? And would play train conductors off each other so he could get what he wanted for his paintings. But he was a man looking at trains and giving nature a run for money, looking at how I can get the light effects here. Monet in his art makes how a picture work, the subject. There's nothing political. He's not Manet. It's not politically aggressive or sexually risque. There's a challenge going on though. It's how the picture works is the only thing. Again, look here. Here's his series. And the train led people out to the coast. When the train came along, it changed everything. It led them to the rivers. Here's a painting that he had. Even his clothes had to be different, so it didn't affect light on his canvas, reflect. I have a lot to say, but I did want to notice, look at how he notices everything. How the light, that's so weird that you can see it, how the light of the colors of the grass and the flowers are reflected up onto her dress and onto under the umbrella. So he's noticing everything. That's his wife and son.
Even the blue, like in the the blue of the sky is also on her dress and stuff.
Yeah, it makes you look at your world differently when you notice he's noticing these things. And his intensive study of the phenomena of light and color is especially evident with these series that he did. They're almost like done with scientific precision. He did haystacks, he did the Rouen Cathedral, but the real subject is not the cathedral, but the sunlight on the building's portrayal. You know, it's like, and through looking at light effects on the object, you get a more precise understanding of the form, because light reveals form. That here are some of his series of the Rouen Cathedral. By the way, the success of Impressionism really happened in America with the art dealers and the industrialist money, because the Europeans weren't buying it. And so he began this series and he sold to the American millionaires. You know, people would buy the whole lot. And some of the one are too close in tonality and can be boring, but some one surface is more exciting than the other. They're interesting. Such a break. This is at the Phillips, and this is also huge. So luncheon at the boating party, but really, where are we? Are we inside?
No, not really.
Yeah, no, not really, kind of in and out. This is Auguste Renoir. I don't like most of his art, I'll just be honest with you, but I do like this painting. I find his work saccharine, but this is a great painting. But I think this painting, you know, it does the impressionist things, right? It's small strikes, tash brush strokes, it's painted outside, breaking color up into patches of light. Atmosphere, we can pick out the atmosphere and the time of day even. It's definitely not, it's probably later.
Wait, y'all are down to do customs?
Huh? Someone asked
Wait,
me?
are y'all wait, are you guys actually down to do, oh, Miles.
Hello?
Yeah.
Who's
Wait,
that?
hold up, guys. Are you guys actually down to do,
I don't know.
oh, guys.
Okay, I need to see who's talking.
The wind wall.
Are you talking to me?
I don't think he knows
think
that
he
his,
realizes
that's
Hold
on
on,
his
guys.
mic.
Guys, everyone here, are you,
Yeah? Is this
guys, are you
is
down to do
Xavier?
customs?
Is this Xavier?
Gio, did you not ask anyone?
I don't think he realizes he has.
I'm
Gio,
pretty
did you
sure
not
he
ask
doesn't know
anyone?
his mic is on.
I'm gonna chat.
Percy said yes too?
What's
I
up
think-
with, I gotta
Guys,
write,
oh
what's
my,
up
we
with
gotta do
Percy?
customs then. Percy never
Damn.
says yes.
Damn, Percy, damn. What's up?
All right. I'm talking to her. Hold up. Okay, that's me.
Talk to her. I wrote, what's up with Percy?
I just got a mullet.
Damn. I hope it works out. Talk to her. We can all write him.
That was mean. I heard me. I'm going back. Fuck you
I
guys.
can- I can-
I'm always here though. I'm down for customs.
This is
Just at me.
fun, but I can mute him. I should mute. Should I mute him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
guess.
pretty distracting. Oh wait, he just no mute. You're muted. Okay. I was like, oh, he's got something great to say about Renoir, but it's about Percy. Okay. So composition. So he painted this outside. A lot of the other people painted a lot of things, but these are all his sitters. And so managing these sitters would have been a lot of organization and a lot of patience, and they probably couldn't have all been present at the same time. But look at what it is. It reminds me of Luncheon, the Manet, right? It's got a still life. What other paintings are in here? What other kind of genres? It's an opulent still life.
Impressionism, of course.
Yeah, but what type? What subjects? There's a still life.
Landscape.
Yeah.
Landscape in the background. Yeah.
There's like a landscape and a seascape. What else?
I suppose it could be considered a group portrait too.
Yeah, group portrait.
Spectacle.
Yeah, definitely several group portraits. Very good, Julio. So like group portraits. I don't know, pet portrait.
Mhm.
But it's interesting, and you know, it's so much action, and it's on this interesting diagonal. but it's balanced out with all the activity back here. And by the way, he took 2 weeks. He painted this last. He took 2 weeks to paint this. Anyway, the curtain. So it's so idyllic, right? And it happened to be a very famous restaurant called Maison Fournaise on the Seine. So a little further out, people would take the train out there and they would rent boats. And the paint, it's, you go out for the good meal, you stay alive, you'd row, stay the night. And so it's the character of French society in mid to late 19th century. This is a very favored restaurant, and it welcomed guests. I don't even know if we see this of many classes. In this scene, we have businessmen, we have possibly courtesans, we have writers, critics. Here's a seamstress who I think he ended up marrying. Remember the guy? This is the guy that runs the boats, who owns the boats, rents the boats, I guess, the boatman. And here is Cabolet, the very wealthy guy who painted, remember the street scene with the umbrellas? He's kind of dressed up like a working class guy. And I know people that do that, who like wear gas station attendant shirts, but drive a Mercedes, it's crazy. But anyway, that's him. And this is the mayor or governor of what used to be Indochine, so like what is now Vietnam, but was a part of the French colony. And you look at all these things happening. It's like he's looking at her, but where's she looking at? Where's she looking at? Not at him.
The man who's like talking to the woman in blue.
Like he's looking at her. I feel like she's looking at him. I feel like there's some really triangular, interesting relationship.
Oh, I thought you meant like the woman in the back there's also the gentleman in brown who's looking at like the woman.
Yeah. She's looking at him and he's looking at her too. There's a lot of these kind of things. So it's in like fun, and they're saying things, and if you follow the sight lines, they tell you something different than the way people are sitting. Way people their bodies are moving. So it's suggestive. I really, anyway, this is, these are all people from all different sides of the economic spectrum, and I feel like what you're looking at is modern society that's mixing classes in a very real kind of place. So he's saying this is modern France, right? And if you compare, this is Watteau, his Fête Galante, right? Kind of like what's behind me. So Watteau and Rococo, the Fête Galante, their idea of the landscape was very, very manicured. And it was all the aristocracy. Of course, you always have to throw in some kind of classical statue. But it was like an unreal manicured wilderness. And here we have a wilderness, but instead of just being the aristocracy, we have a mixing of classes, right?
Seems more casual.
Yeah. Although they think they're casual. Yeah. These guys are much more casual. Yeah. Yeah, maybe there's an element of formality here. These are just, this tells you, I took it out of your link, but it tells everything everybody is. Tell me a number and I'll tell you who they are. Ask me a number. 2? Where is 2? 2. 2 is the proprietor's daughter. Alphonse Fournier handles the boat rentals. And they wear straw boaters. And she's his sister. And she also handles the boat rentals.
About 13.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
ask that.
that she is a famous actress, and
I feel like
someone's
2 is
flirting
looking
with
at
her.
13.
The bureaucrat across this bureaucrat is flirting with the actress, and this guy is an artist. They're both flirting with her. That's where it says.
What about 8?
2 looks like he's looking at her.
8?
8 looks
This guy? This is the mayor, governor of Vietnam. So this is really a mixing of classes, right?
Yeah.
He's a poet. There's an art historian in there.
What about number 1?
Okay. Oh, she's the seamstress that he marries. Yeah, Aline Chaillot, a seamstress Renoir recently met and later married. So this is a real mix of the class spectrum. So I'm just gonna go to American Impressionists really quickly. This is Willard Metcalf, one of my favorite painters. And he makes these really lyrical paintings of New England. It's kind of tranquil landscape, very peaceful. And he liked optics, but no, he is very, look at this. This is a Japanese print. He's very influenced by Japanese prints with the strong diagonals that you see here and the flat pans of color. And then the aerial, the bird's eye view is also there. But this is different from the Impressionists. This isn't a grand scene. It's a very intimate landscape. And you notice one thing that Impressionists were the first to figure out is that shadows were not black. In the rest of art history, shadows were black. Impressionists realized that they were all different colors reflected of what they were around. This is very late, we're jumping ahead. This is 1917, and this is Childe Hassam, who was actually Lebanese by descent. And this is a victory flag parade for all the Allies, all the Allies flags, the British Union Jack, the French tricolor, the American flag, to herald Americans' entry into the war and also to commemorate the resolution. But there's a lot of Japanese influence here. It's up high, aerial view, strong diagonals. But he has Impressionist influence. But one thing that's different about him is everything is very architectonic, meaning like very structured, which isn't really a Impressionist technique. It's really his own style. Okay, so natural landscape as reflection of time. So this is what I want you to think of, especially like looking into the test, is know-how depictions of the landscape, which was once considered the lowest art genre, had to be elevated, remember, and changed from period to period, from Poussin in the Baroque through Rococo fantasies of the rich, through Romanticism, through realism, to Manifest Destiny, to Luminism, Tonalism, to the Impressionists. I mean, you don't have to know all of it, but you probably should pick like 4 to know, okay? So westward expansion, think of that, the fight to preserve the land versus some show the fight against slavery. You know, it's all sorts of things that are reflected in the landscape. So, you know, here's Poussin, and with his time, landscapes were very low, and he was a master at painting them, but they were all very liney, and they always included Roman ruins, right? And then next, if you go here, we didn't have Roman ruins. This is showing America as a metaphor for renewal, right? And Manifest Destiny, and this is Thomas Cole, and this is the old world and the new world and new cultivation, and you know the story. Fête Gallant is sort of nature as like a fantasy paradise for the aristocracy. Here was Turner imbuing emotion for the sublime, right, of romanticism, and the power, as he was also invoking it to scourge slavery in a slave ship. This was also invoking the sublime and the power of nature. This too. I lost Bierstadt, but this, remember, was metaphor, was tonal luminism, Martin Johnson Heed, and metaphor for, so you should, know these, or know at least 4. This is my great Thomas Moran, who studied the arts, right, of Turner to get the high-keyed colors. He was trying to preserve, this is the first landscape owned by the US government, and he intended to preserve and protect it, as opposed to these, which are manifest destiny, go out and, like Bierstadt, go out and conquer. This is poetic, transcendentalist, really showing a mood and spirituality. This is evoking psychology. Also, this is Civil War. This is also Civil War. This is Impressionism and light and intimacy and Japonism. And this is capturing that exact moment. It's, I have it in, it's Monet. So I'm just giving you, you can run through, you had all of these, you can run through, but I'm just saying you should know what these are about. And how it changes from time. Oh boy. So here comes the great Manet again. And I'm just gonna really quickly go through this. We often see, like in Titian and Watteau, the women don't really have thoughts. But what kind of person is this?
It's like a bartender.
She's a bartender. She's a barmaid. Exactly. And where is she? See the mirror, right? Where are she? Where is she? What kind of place is she?
Bougie.
It looks like it'd be like a theater or something like that. It looks like people are sitting in rows kind of in the back.
They're a trapezist.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? So it's La Cage aux Folies.
Is it a circus? Because I see some legs up there.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's a place of entertainment, like a bar of entertainment, it's an entertainment. I don't know. What do you call it? It's like people would come and have drinks, and there was dancing and performances, and there's trapeze artists. It's a Moulin Rouge.
A cabaret?
It's a cabaret, like a cabaret. Yeah, it's a Folies Bergère, the Moulin Rouge. It's a place like that, right? And the people that go are the people that can afford to live in Paris, right? And here's Manet looking at it sideways. But I just want you to notice the balance here, how these white repeats, the white lights kind of repeat, and also how the green of these little feet diagonally leads us, it moves us in a line to this green bottle. And if you covered up half of this, or one of these bottles, it just wouldn't fit. It's very, very well balanced. And even the way he's organized them is like a very modern kind of abstraction. So here she is, and who's in front of her?
Oh, some man.
Some man, right? And she's like, if you notice it, this is a window, right? A mirror, right? So how much space does she have to get away from whoever is talking?
Not much.
No, she's kind of trapped, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, it shows us. So, this is someone who doesn't live in Paris. She's someone that's kind of left out of this Parisian nightlife that she services. Um, you know,
I
there's
have a
all
random
this
question.
realism in it, you know, it's like the realism of life in and out of Paris, and it's impressionism with the movement of light and his types of brushstroke. But he makes this painting of the barmaid super big with this amazing kind of abstracted patterned arrangements around her, but she's actually wedged in this narrow space, and her reflection is displaced to the right, you know, which then while she waits on the man where we must be standing, but let's just face it, that's not a realistic reflection. It wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be able to see it. But as it's Manet, he's saying, hey, this is a painting. I can paint it the way I want. I'm not going to be that realistic. It's a painting, you know? So he's challenging us. And he's got all these visual weights and counterweights all over it with the reflection, the bottles on either side, the green clad feet, you know, they all have a role to play. The woman in the white who props her elbows on the balcony, it's all a role to play. But there's also all these visual contradictions, you know, with the reflection, you know, but he's interested in interest in class, and he's conscious of Marx and survival issues of Darwin. Like that was really impactful at the time, like who is making it and who isn't. And think about it, she's in service, and there's a lot of layers of meaning. She's stuck in there, and there's not much agency. Think about her world and the limitations compared to the worlds of the people she's serving. And also
Her expression also
and that
doesn't seem very pleasant.
No. And he makes this painting huge and gigantic. He brings her world into the portraits of the kings and the queens and the history paintings. And I think Manet is consciously tries to elevate the mundane. But I just also want to say, you know, these people were often forced to double as prostitutes, the barmaids. There was a parallel there. So her possibilities were very limited, and she knew it. And this is a profound painting to her and the reality of modern life in its vastness and its hugeness, etc.
I have a random question about that.
Yeah.
So you know how you mentioned that oranges usually like represent wealth and whatnot?
They can in older painting. Yeah.
Oh, so is it the same situation here and with that painting?
Yeah, probably meant that it was a specialty or something, although much more so in the Dutch paintings, you know, that we were looking at that had them.
Okay, thank you.
But it definitely would have been, because it's like it's France, you know, it's not Florida.
Yeah.
And so it would have to definitely been an import, and importing wasn't as easy. So it's a good point. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through this. Trade with Japan opened up. Yeah, you got to know this. In mid 19th century, your artists became captivated with the woodblock prints that were often used as stuffing in packing boxes for ceramics. And the Impressionists greatly admired the spatial organization and intimate themes and outlines and etc. compositions of Japanese prints. And so what you need to know of Japanism, I mean, they were used as like packaging, you know, but people got less interested in the ceramics and more interested in the paper. So intimate scenes, right? Little intimate scene, very common. Patterning or flat bands of color, and diagonals. Also bird's eye point of view, like aerial point of view, perspective. Sometimes an empty space in the front that's unactivated. That's also very common. And black outlines, but not always though. So these are what took over, changed artists. So these are the things. heavy outlines, intimate scene, air, flat, model color, empty foreground, like a weird spatial organization, cropping in unusual ways. So look, this is kind of cropped off and this is kind of cropped off in a, like not a complete way. So asymmetry, strong diagonals, it could be pattern, could be, so you see here with Mary Cassatt, an American who made her way to Europe, who was wealthy and never married, even though she only, you know, really painted scenes of mothers and childhood. But she was of the Gilded Age, of the wealthy, and so she painted. But can you see how it's she was so affected by Japanese prints here? Can you see here?
Yeah.
Anybody tell me how? I'll give you extra points.
Because you have the pattern on her dress, and then
Who's talking?
Alini, me.
Okay, great, Alini, great, I love it. The pattern, yeah.
And we also have like the, actually it is cropped.
Yep.
And it's a intimate scene.
Yep. Good. Yep. Also, strong diagonals.
That's true. And
like the positioning.
The diagonals. And this is really important. Kind of a empty area right here is also important. And did you say aerial perspective? Well, bird's eye view. So you really hit them all. Here's again, now you can see it related. She probably was looking at something very close to this.
To me, the thing that stands out the most is how flat it looks.
Yeah, an overall flattening. Yeah, definitely. That's really true. You can say that too if you see something. This kind of flat, unmodeled areas of color or pattern.
Yeah, not much like value.
Yeah, this is a print, it's harder.
Yeah.
Here is Van Gogh taken off, you know, but the diagonals, I mean, notice they all have these diagonals. And this is a strong diagonal, you know. And the empty spaces, that's really important. See, you see here, it's kind of an overall pattern. And this aerial perspective is kind of empty space. This is a woman, Bert Merzold, the only other woman in the group. But she's influenced by pinks offsetting their complement, little strokes of green in this. So influence in optics. Degas. Okay, you guys, if you stay with me to this, I know it's getting over, but if you stay with me through Degas, this will have the whole test done. I mean, you know, and you need to see this because he's gonna be on. Do you mind? You can go if not. I'm not, you know, I'm not gonna observe, like, I'm not gonna keep you there, but it's be like 10 minutes. So, okay. Thank God. Okay, so this guy is, where is he? He observed what he worried were vulnerable, poor ballet students in intimate scenes, in uncomfortable poses, not like reclining moods or whatever. He kind of, you know, he opened the doorway up. But look at here, where's the Japanese influence in this orange girl painting?
Diagonals. You have a lot of
the strong diagonal. Yeah. Totally.
Bird's eye view.
Yep, bird's eye view, great.
The repetition of all the blue patterns, like on the wallpaper and their tutus.
I don't know if that's Japanese, but it's a good observation because it creates unity and harmony. What about the cropping?
The empty space.
Huh?
The empty space.
Yes, well done. And what about the cropping?
Yeah, of the tutu and like on the other side, like it just crops the person like right in half.
Yeah, yeah. And this diagonal here, and then the diagonals of the wood planks, it also creates a lot of movement. And this bisects with another diagonal over there. Okay, so, you know, he influences Cassatt for this. This is a very Degas space. This is in the National Gallery. I try to put images a lot that are in the National Gallery so you can see them. So she was working on this and she showed this to Degas, and he said, I like it, but the space is boring. She had everything centered, and she went back and did it on a diagonal like this, that way, and that way. And then he even edited the painting a bit in the back, which we probably really shouldn't do, but it's a Degas space. And then this is a Degas space, you know, but you can see Van Gogh in Arles, the modern space it is, you know, the cropping from photographs, the aerial, the empty spaces, all these diagonals. Van Gogh was looking at Japanese print. So back here, we don't see her feet, right? They're just cropped off. Look how he pushes everybody. He's very free. It's called occult or asymmetrical balance. It's very Japanese. So it's like the strong figure in front is balanced by all these girls in the back. Remember, down here is a big visual pull because it's low on the picture frame, but then you need a lot of activity with this light shining through the window to balance it. I mean, this is, remember, this is Piero della Francesca. This is bilateral symmetry, extreme bilateral balance. So it's, you know, but Degas, you know, he doesn't do it. That's a simple way to achieve balance. He finds another way. He finds the asymmetrical way. And here is patterns in motion, you know, but look at that spiral staircase. It's cropped. You know, people aren't used to looking at this. Like, who are they? You know, what are they doing with their bodies? This isn't like pretty ballet moves. They're just like, if you look at them, you know, what are they doing? It's like, my back is hurting. I'm adjusting my bow. I'm waiting. You know, his frame cuts off the spiral stair. The windows in the background are cut. There's large off-center empty space in the front, creates this illusion of this continuous floor connecting us with them. Think of Las Meninas. And he, yeah?
I also say like a bit of like intimacy with like adjusting the bows and like practicing together, and I guess, I don't know.
Totally. It's totally important. You're right. It's totally, and an intimate moment a la Japanese print. So you see here at that empty foreground, the intimate scene. And I think, you know, which also Velasquez had, but I'm sure he wasn't thinking that. But he also uses the camera to like crop and reframe his compositions. But just very often he'll imply that there are 4 walls, but only show 2. So think about it. Look where he places that chair. So that chair is parallel, you know, to the wall that you don't see. It implies, right? But it implies the wall by being in that way, you know? And who are these girls? So sometimes there are rooms with windows where older wealthy men or patrons sit and look in on practice. And they'd even have apartments in the Paris Opera. And you need to remember, these girls aren't like, you know, your cousin's kids that live in Bethesda and are like going to ballet practice in Chevy Chase. You know, that wasn't the girls that were taking ballet. You know, these people were those kicked out of Paris by Haussmanns, and they were kicked from Paris. Their family didn't have means of making money, and they're often meant to support their families. So these very young girls, you know, 14, 13, you know, they're vulnerable to these sponsors. And they have to commute to the city on the trains like we saw in Daumier's Third Class and perform for the wealthy. So their aunts or their chaperones would be like pimps. You know, I want you to know that. That's like, you know, important on the test. So today, you know, that they were disadvantaged. And today you see Degas, you know, dancers put about young girls' beds, and they have this connotation of like lightness and happiness and safety. But for the dancers in the 19th century, the reality was really much darker. And here, you know, Degas would examine these girls. He loved the ballet, but he was not interested in the performance, in painting the performance. He was really interested in the ballet rats, not the prima ballerina. He was interested in their dedication, their vulnerability, their lives, and he would paint those. And he was really, as pastels are really mysterious. They can have these elusive, dreamy effects. And this is La Maison de Pastel. And I mean, he started to go blind. So why would a man going blind want to work in pastel versus a brush?
You can move it and layer it.
You can also, you can get close to it. Like say it's going blind, but he can still see some things. And you get so close to it with your eyes. You know, he was painting, he'd have to ask people what colors were on his palette. So Degas would get so close, you could put your nose in it. So you could kind of tactile and you could move it. He also got into sculpture, although he didn't show things. And he was really into these blues, right? These vibrant, primary blues. And look at the complementary color, the orange and the blue there. And, you know, he's, as you see, the Japonism, the intimate scenes. In fact, his scenes were so intimate, they thought that he was looking through a keyhole of a door at people. And they called them keyhole paintings. But look, the flat pens of color, the patternings, the empty foregrounds, the diagonals, the intimate scenes, the asymmetry. And then, remember Muybridge? He was super influenced by all his, you know, his studies of movement. And he changed the way he painted nudes, depicted nudes because of it. As you can see, can you see the difference at the book? Here's a traditional nudes, how they were done. Very kind of elegant. And he shows the awkwardness of real movements. You know, it's, you know, these are softened for the male gaze. And these are influenced by Japanese sensibilities, but they're also wonderfully fresh and awkward and realistic. You can see here his study. And with pastels, he would blend with his fingers and, you know, these visible kind of sculptural stripes. And, you know, he looked, because of Muybridge, he looked in new ways. Have you guys seen this before? Have you seen this artist, this piece before?
Yes, it's National Gallery.
So this is Little Dancer, age 14, and if just look at some of the words that some of the things that it's made from: silk tutu, beeswax, clay. He started making sculptures going blind, but most of them were seen after his death in his studio. A lot about horses. This was the only one he put on view, and it, of course, you know, it caused a major stir. You know, he had real hair, real clothes. It must have seemed super macabre and strange. And it was a little girl, a ballet rat named Marie, who came from Belgium. And like most rats, she came from a poor, disreputable family. And she was a little bit coarse, and she had a habit of proudly sticking out her chin. And in this position, he forces her, like it was really difficult. He pulled her hand back, all the way back, and had her lift up her chin even more. And it isn't even a dance position or a practice position. So it's kind of like, well, what was it? And the critics at the time said she looked like a fetus and that she should put her in a bowl of alcohol. Another person said she looked like a rat. It really bothered them. So I kind of think, you know, this was influenced by cruel evolutionary views that were misinterpreting Darwin. Like he was placing her and all the ballet rats on a social evolutionary level. because people even called it simian-like, which means ape-like, an example of evolution. And this is not what Darwin intended. It wasn't social, but this is the way some people in the different classes were taking it. And they said, oh, well, this social order, they're just lower developed. And so it's just kind of, I feel like we need a bit more history to understand how things were understood at the time. But now we look at her, we don't think, oh, she's disturbing. We love her petulance and her stubbornness. And we see it as a part of us, not part of a lesser being. And then, do I have any more? So I want you, this is the last slide. Sorry to go over. Oh, wait, did we? Oh, yeah, we did by 10 minutes. So look at these. And my question will be to you on the test. So think of the changes in the 19th century. What were some of the changes from Baron Haussmann's project to redesign Paris, or the Industrial Revolution, or the ideas of Marx and Darwin to change things? And you can kind of choose from these things or from your notes or a book how these changes show up in or affect art. I actually put this up on the study guide. I resubmitted the study guide. I read it. So you
when
can
I'm sorry, when did you resubmit it?
Like this weekend, I think.
Oh, I thought you meant like today. Sorry.
No, it's this weekend. So it's like you kind of think of the changes and then like pick one of these images or two of these images, pick an example and one example and just talk about it. Doesn't have to be a lot, doesn't have to be long, but it, it kind of should talk about what we talked about in this class, like displacement, change of women. You can pick that. All sorts of things. You could pick the déjeuner, the woman de la herbe, the woman at the luncheon with her nakedness. Any of these. The bourgeois streets, the girls. The mixing of classes and the trains of the Industrial Revolution that got them out there. There's a lot of ways you can look at it. And I leave that to you to pick it, which is the nice thing of these at home is I can leave you to like go through your stuff and choose. But it's good to go through your, go through your notes or go through the study guide ahead of time, just so you're not spending a lot of time doing that. I'll give you time for sure, but any questions?
Well, does that mean that you want us in the test to actually submit a picture like this, or will it be on the test for us to choose?
You can choose from that picture, but you should identify it. You can pick one of those objects and say how it fits, or if you find a better one in your book or in your notes, just identify it and go on or provide a link.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I'm just offering that to you if you feel more comfortable with something else.
If we're adding more questions, are we adding more time?
Huh?
If we're adding more questions to the test, this is for the test you're talking about, right?
I'm not adding more questions.
Oh, okay.
I just put it on the study guide. I redid the study guide. It will not be this. I can't believe we did this. Like crazy. I can't believe I made this so long. I'll have to yeah. Okay. Long class. But you guys, it will not be long next week. It will. I have much. I think I was meant to do. I think I confused this and taught 1.5 classes, so it'll be short next week. Okay. Are you exhausted? We did okay. We did okay. We went over. We went way over, but we did okay. Did we do okay? What could be better?
Well, for the time that I was here, I thought it was fine.
Thank you. What do I have to show you? What did I choose? Oh, here's this lady again. Look. We're gonna do that next week.
I want to know how to do that.
It's a good.
Yeah, you guys should all do that.
Get a cool
and you
green
should
screen.
pick like art, download art onto your computer and upload it onto.
But,
You
like, how
go
do you do
into
it?
you go into like meeting and preferences.
Oh no, it's on here. I thought it was a green.
It's virtual
Oh my
background.
god.
Put
Oh
in
my-
paintings. That would be fun if we all did paintings.
Actually, Professor, I have one question. I was going to the study guide on the weekends, and I noticed that there was a question on the study guide about Velasquez. Um, but I tried looking at your PowerPoint notes, and I didn't see anything for Las Meninas there. I think there was one section, but there was no notes on it on the PowerPoint. I think it was class 6 and 7. I can't remember.
Oh no, I didn't. I didn't upload the Las Meninas. You want me to upload that? I'm not. I'm stopping putting my notes, and I'm starting putting, like the PDFs. Since we're all here together, Meninas. I'll put the Las Meninas. You want me to put it up? I'll put it up.
Yes, please.
Okay. I need
Yeah,
like.
that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we like the notes?
Yeah, but now I decided that was like cheating. Like, I'll try. I'm gonna see this class.
It's impossible to write everything that you say, so just
Yeah,
clues.
but like, how many other student teachers give their lecture notes?
Not enough.
No, I think it's
Okay.
helpful, especially for the study guide and studying for the tests.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put up Las Meninas.
Thank you.
And I'll try to do everything I can.
So the test is tomorrow, right?
It's like no, I'm not gonna. You guys need to study. So I was thinking putting up Thursday and Friday.
Okay. Perfect.
That sounds good.
No, like this is way, this new, last lecture is way too much, you know. This is a huge test, you know. But you know, and if you need help, if you guys want to study, like I can go over the study guide with you guys if you wanna have a meeting, to have a meetup, and we can go over the study guide like Thursday morning or something. And I'll just go over it question by question.
I would love that, but unfortunately, I still work. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I work as a graphic designer for this food and grocery store. So, and they haven't lost their job yet, so I'm still working till 5.
Oh, okay. So.
Not for me. I mean, I would love to be a part of it, but I can't.
Well, okay. So let me write it. So what would be a good time for you? What would be a good day and time?
So for me, I mean, I don't know anybody else, but for me, I can do like, that's why I take late night classes. I can do either that or the weekends. I've said, well,
Okay, well, if you can't, no, okay, then I could, if I can have more than you on it, I could do Thursday evening and then push it to Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds good.
yeah, I love that, but for me, I won't be there because I have another class on Thursday. I got all my classes at night. Sorry.
Is there a way to do it and like post the recording of it somewhere?
Yeah, no, I mean, you can do that. That's fine.
Okay.
You can send her your questions, and then maybe we can talk on the meeting.
Yeah, send me
Yeah.
my questions and I can go through them, go through the study guide with you.
Yeah. And then whoever's not there can just see the recording.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope this is a long ass recording. Let's hope that it worked.
I'm hoping so that it recorded so I can see what I missed.
Okay, so let's plan it. Okay, just let me check my schedule and show. Okay, I need to move this out. Stop it. Oh, let's see. Yeah, physical therapy. Okay, so how about, can any of you, I don't have anything on Thursday. Can any of you do like the morning or the afternoon? Or would you rather do the evening Thursday?
I'm pretty flexible. If it's during the daytime, I won't be able to give you my undivided attention because I do have to work from home, but I'll be here like this, listening and sort of participating, so that would be fine.
Yeah, Thursday evening sounds good.
Thursday evening? Okay, so Thursday, how do you say, 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
I can do
Thursday
that.
5, yeah.
Okay. So I'll just send everything. I'll send this. I'll like use this same link and send it. You know, we can meet at, and I'll send out a reminder. Use study guide. Study group. Tried to send it. Okay. All right. Okay, I'll send out a link like either 2 hours before or the day before. What's better for you guys?
2 hours before.
Okay.
It's better.
Okay. Okay, 5 p.m. Thursday. Ready?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. And it will never be this long again, I swear. I know I can say that, but I really mean it. Like, I think I confused something. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm not gonna be there. I'm probably gonna be watching the recording. Does that mean that we're still gonna have the test on Thursday and Friday?
We'll have it on Friday and Saturday.
Oh, thank God. Thank you.
Yep.
The thing I have a problem with my lecture notes is someone could take them and use them to teach. And I I never thought of that. And I like worry about that. Okay. So, I don't know. You guys are going to have to help me because I don't know how to get out of this thing.
There's like
I love your background. Julio, I love that. Are you outside? Are you outside?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I was trying to remember how I was having problems trying to get the audio working. I come up through this background thing, and I was like, that was interesting. So I
I
tried
like that. Where do you think that is?
I don't know.
Oh, it's got a dog and a river.
It's like it's like a dog, and they're all looking outside into some like some like nice cloud, as if they were like outside.
It's
But they're
very
not.
cute. It's very cute. We should all meet at like a pool or something. Okay, so I'm gonna close this out as soon as I figure out how.
All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys. If you can figure out how to leave it, go ahead. I don't know how to leave this sucker.
You have to click on the one that says "Leave Meeting" on the corner.
Mine doesn't. Oh, bye.